Earlier this year, I made a prediction video on how good each ability from Kirby in the Forgotten Land would be, and after playing the game later that week, I knew that I would have to make an updated version on that tier list. Now, I could have made a video right after playing the game the first time and make rankings based off my first impressions of playing the game, but I felt that wasn't good enough to give to you either. I've got to give a hand to the Kirby community for inspiring me to guide this video in a particular direction. While the evolved copy abilities appear to be simple upgrades that would plainly just be better than the regular forms, it's not just the case. Once you defeat a final boss, the weapon shop will grant you the ability to increase the power output of any copy ability, allowing you to level the playing field for all evolutions of most copy abilities. And the truth is, welcome to the first edition of the Ultimate Kirby Tier List. You may be the pinkest, you may be the puffiest, but can you be the best of the best? Well, the answer is simple. Just get a max level toy hammer and yeet all the competition off the planet. And the wise Waldy makes that very clear that this weapon can get you the world record in the Coliseum. So, if you're looking for the best weapon in combat in the game, pick Toy Hammer. Forget all the others, it's Toy Hammer. You defeat a boss? Pick Toy Hammer. How to clear the Ultimate Cup Z? Pick Toy Hammer. Need something to play with? Pick Toy Hammer. I think you get it. This weapon is brutally strong. However, Kirby games aren't all about fighting. Fecto Forgo summed it up in 4 words actually. Everything shall be consumed. Okay, in all seriousness, power alone isn't what makes an ability good, which is why, spoiler alert, Toy Hammer is not the best ability in the game. Oh yeah, before I continue, I should say that this is research-based, but there may be room for error. A future version may contain more accurate details. So how will this tier list work? I will gather statistics of each ability covering different areas and add up their scores in the end. The first test will be the Coliseum speedrun test. Here, each ability will have its power fully amplified to the max. Each ability will also have 20 minutes worth of speed as well. And to give you an idea on how good a copy ability is, the original Kirby will be placed as a C tier, because Kirby cannot be upgraded in the weapons shop. I'm going to give him the power boost to accommodate for that. Here, Kirby could deal massive damage to enemies with clusters and star bullets, but Kirby encountered several moments where he had to wait before getting the chance to attack. Kirby got about 11 minutes in this test, which I'm going to consider the C range. Blizzard Ice has a decent range and incredible defense, but the Blizzard ability struggled to finish off opponents swiftly. In Kirby in the Forgotten Land, each ability family has a method for dealing colossal damage with a single attack, but unfortunately for Ice, those conditions are very hard to pull off. The reason why are because you need to apply enough frost to a boss in order to freeze it. And the phase transitions, abrupt movements, being left alone, or just losing the ability will reset this frost counter. Some benefits of the ice ability though is that it can freeze regular enemies, which can give a head start in the DDD boss fight, and it can scale magma, which can be useful for when fighting Forgo DDD. Otherwise, defeating bosses were simply a struggle. None of the 3 ice ability managed to clear this test in under 13 minutes, which places them all in the F tier. While Kirby is capable of inhaling star bullets to shoot at bosses, the Needle family picks them up and just throws them instead. While you are required to run up to a star bullet and pick it up yourself, the benefit is that you're allowed to gather as many star bullets as you want, till your needles lose their stamina. As a result, most bosses were a breeze for this family. The soul didn't last long against the needles. Now I would like to share 2 evolution differences here. The first is that the Crystal Evolution has a longer grab range compared to the base Needle ability, but the catch is that it takes a second for these needles to jab out after you press the fire button. Furthermore, the Clutter Needle has a special perk where it scatters 1 piece of clutter upon turning into its Needle Ball, and releases 5 when it turns back into a normal Kirby. The base and Crystal Needles took the objective of gathering star bullets and releasing them back at bosses, while the Clutter Needle was focused more onto dealing as much damage with the clutter as possible. However, this did not go well, as it managed to fall behind the other 2 needles, making a time of 10 minutes 2 seconds, which the other 2 evolutions made in the 9 to 10 minute range. The Drill family receives a benefit whenever the speed boost is applied. This is due to the fact that the Drill's excavate functions over time instead of distance. Once 5 seconds pass, the Kirby is set to resurface regardless if you're holding the attack button or not. As a result, the speed boost allows the Drill family to draw bigger circles, which proves to be beneficial when going up against larger bosses. A notable drawback is that Chaos Elfless was hard to land attacks on due to him constantly teleporting and camping off stage. The results of this test placed the base Drill ability in the B rank, while the other 2 managed to land it in the A. The Tornado family has the power to collect up to 6 star bullets and swing them at enemies to deal significant damage. The Flura evolution has a longer pickup range compared to the base Tornado, while the Storm evolution has reduced damage for an automatic homing function. The Flura ability made it into the A rank with 9 minutes and 30 seconds, while the other two forms made it into the B rank. The Bomb family have some interesting results. The bombs alone actually do pretty solid damage. However, I will state that the homing bombs do not stay still, and as a result, in certain situations where I had to rely on the bosses following into a trap, the homing bombs would not cooperate. Now, they do home in on your enemies, but any shockwave or projectile will destroy them. As a result, the bomb managed to reach the A rank for this test, the chain managed to reach the S rank, but the homing bomb unfortunately struggled, probably because of Chaos Alphaless, and got the B tier for this test. The sword family has some peculiar results in this test. Meta Knight and Morphinite swords basically ripped open the Ultimate Cup Z, basically because of their sword beam mechanic. Whenever Kirby's at full health, or at least 100% health, the basic sword attack becomes a ranged projectile. So yeah, that basically gives those two an advantage. The Gigant Sword is rather a slow weapon, but because of the sword dash attack not impacting the speed or whatever, the Gigant Sword, or Gigant Sword, how do you say that? It did pretty well. Unfortunately for the base sword, no extra powers, no extra abilities, it was left to die in the dust, in the C rank. The Gigant and Meta Knight sword reached an A rank, while the Morphinite strangely reached a B rank. Maybe it doesn't do as much damage as the Meta Knight sword. The Cutter family has a good time in this test. To save the time, I will state that for this current research, the Buzzsaw got B tier while the other two got A's. The Cutter's range and accuracy are amazing, but the Final Cutter can prevent you from attacking for a couple of seconds. For the fire abilities, I got records of 10 minutes and 58 seconds for Dragon, 11 minutes and 13 seconds for Volcano, and 9 minutes and 2 seconds with Fire. Why is Fire so much better here? I believe Chaos Alphaless has the answer of tampering with the scores. I may have to examine these tests for later, but I will state they're not far off. This family allows you to set the opponent and everything around you on fire, as long as you have the ability. Some bosses may eject that ability in one attack, and that's when the game gets annoying. That's all I will say for this section. The Hammer family. I think this one is pretty obvious for anyone who has a solid experience with this game. The Hammer family is a go-to for Cup speedrunning. With the exception of Wild Hammer, the Hammer family pulled off record times, giving them all S+ rankings. Because the Wild Hammer is so slow, it only managed to get the A rank. The Ranger family has some interesting results. The Base Ranger placed in the S rank, the Noble Ranger placed in the B rank, and the Space Ranger placed in the A rank. Why is this? This is basically because of the fully charged beam's projectile. Basically, the Base Ranger allows you to deal some bonus damage into boss phase transitions. You notice when you fight bosses that when they get angry, they usually throw up a tantrum or they just move around the battlefield and set up for some new attacks. And while they're doing this stay in place, the developers give them a huge defense boost, so the player can't take advantage of it. Although, I will state that some abilities can go over before the phase transition to save some extra damage. That might be why Base Ranger got in the S rank. The Crash and Sleep abilities are one-time use abilities, meaning it's impossible to run these tests with these abilities. However, I can make some predictions, since the crashes deal severe damage, sometimes even killing the boss. I placed both Crash and Time Crash in B rank, since chances are, you're not going to get the Crash ability the next time, you'll have to play as normal Kirby. Sleep ability I am placing in the A rank because even though it does not help Kirby defeat a boss faster, it does help Kirby regenerate health, which might save him time in the long run. The Deep Sleep receives an S+ for not only fully regenerating Kirby's health, but it can be reused in the transition rooms, meaning Kirby can apply all 3 boosters before entering the next round. The next test I present is the Speed test. Copy abilities with a move that impact their speed qualifies them to participate in this test, where they have to clear the first track of Circuit Speedway without driving the car. The Kirby we all know managed to clear this track in 35 seconds, and the ability that can't beat that is placed in the F tier. The Ranger family has a mid-air attack that allows them to keep their momentum while mid-air. They hit the finish line in 36 seconds, being their F tier. The Hammer and Toy abilities have a mid-air attack that allows them to briefly jump on mud. They barely make it in 34.457 seconds. The Wild Hammer did not get as lucky. The Masked Hammer is strangely made with a time of 32.231 seconds, maybe because it leans forward while doing the hammer spin. Now we have Time Crash. This literally breaks the system because of all the enemies that fueled this Time Crash, allowing Time Crash to make the finish line in 8.274 seconds. About like 35 seconds. The Fire family has some surprising results. The Beasts and Volcano Fire seem to reach the finish line in around 31 seconds, but the Dragon Fire didn't make the cut. Even though the Dragon ability has a longer dash, the charge time required is what placed it in the F tier of this list. Because of the teleportation ability, the Morpho Sword was allowed to clear the stage in about 31 seconds. The Tornado family showed the course no fear. The Base and Storm makes it into the A rank, while the Flare makes it into the S rank. The Drill and Pencil abilities try to make it, they do in 36 seconds. The Twin Drill, however, makes it in 32 seconds because it has a slightly faster dig speed. The Ice abilities are able to make it in 33.209 seconds because the mud is unable to slow them down. The Nito's abilities, they crush the competition. Well, except for Time Crash of this. The next test is quite simple. It's a range test. I don't think I have to speak this time, man. I think just showing what it's like each time is good enough. The fourth test I will present is the Power Boost Ultimate Cup Z Speedrun test. Basically, it's like the first test, but dipped with more power. There are some differences with the boss cooldowns, but still. Here's the results of what I got. The fifth test is the Residue test. It records how long an ability can leave something in an area. I know it's confusing, let this image help explain what I mean. And let me just show you each of them which qualify. Finally, we're going to provide the defense ring test. Since recording health and time take a while, I want to get version 1 out here, so I used the defense test out of the defense mechanisms I found while playing the game. To sum it up, the Ice family has the function to block almost every attack except for crunching, or being grabbed, or falling. Otherwise, it's completely immune to everything. Crystal is a rank B. It's immune to ground shockwaves, but that's approximately it. Deep, rank S. While this ability does not provide any defense, in fact it makes Kirby vulnerable, it does allow Kirby to position where he sleeps, which is very good, and it brings him back to full health. Twin, rank A. Drill is immune to all attacks that do not connect to the ground, while underground is. Storm, rank A. Tornado is immune to all attacks above the ground, like that touch the ground. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Anything that is just a ground shockwave, Tornado's immune to. Homing, rank A. Drones are fragile, but you do not have to aim while attacking. Morphle, rank S. Well, Morphle has the ability to lifesteal, and did I mention the fact he can teleport? Buzzsaw, rank B. Even though the Buzzsaw has the mechanic to ricochet off walls, the boomerang function gives the Buzzsaw long enough range to qualify. Dragon, rank D. Even though the dragon has a good amount of range, the lack of mobility the dragon has puts him on the D tier. Time, rank S. You are completely invulnerable while in a time crash. Mass, rank C. Mass has a very short range, and it grants no effect. Space. Because Space has a good amount of range, it'll be able to attack some enemies from a safe distance. Wand Hammer, rank F. This moves incredibly slow, modifying all of the hammer's attacks, making it hard to evade while attacking. Then, rank C. Well, it does not steal life. Unless you have the health boost active, this is not going to be very helpful to you. Frosty is the same as Blizzard, Clutter is the same as Crystal, Pencil is the same as Twins, Fleur is the same as Storm. Chain, rank C. Since the bombs do not home, it really provides no defense mechanisms. Gigant, rank S. It's basically the same as Ice Kirby. Chakra, rank B, it's the same as Buzzsaw. Volcano, rank C. It's slightly faster than the Dragon, which is why it's not rank D. Toy, rank C. It's the same as Mass Hammer. Noble, rank B, similar to Space. Ice, rank S. Same as Blizzard. Needle, rank C. The duration and range of the needles are shorter compared to Clutter and Crystal. Sleep, rank F. Even though Sleep can heal the player, there are some areas in the game where the Sleep ability domes are still used as an obstacle, and you can't really walk that far, just card the ability whenever you want, unlike the Deep Sleep ability. Drill, rank A. Works identical to the Pencil on Twins. Tornado, rank B. Lacks the range Fueler and Storm have. You can only attack when given ammo or at a very close range. Bomb, rank C, same as Chain. Sword, rank C, same as Meta Knight. Cutter, rank B, same as Chakra. Fire, rank C, same as Volcano. Crash, rank B. Even though it does mass damage to anything nearby, it does not grant immunization, like the Time Crash. Hammer, rank C, the same as Toy. Ranger, rank B, same as Space. And now we have to give out some bonuses and penalties. The Duo family will be penalized 5 points for the speed boost having the power advantage. The Cutter family will, in the default Kirby, will have a 5-point bonus for the ability to collect items from a distance. The Hammer family will have a 10-point bonus for Hammer Glitch, being a fast way to travel in the game. The Bob will only get 3 points, since you can rarely pull it off all the time. The Meta Knight and Morphosoids have deduced 5 points for the unlimited sword beams exceeding the 100% health bar. The Morphosoid will have a 3-point bonus for self-regeneration. The Tornado family will receive a 7-point bonus for mid-air traveling and the ability to collect items. And with the bonuses out of the way, it's time for the final ranking. If you've been paying attention, you may be able to figure out which abilities go in which areas. As I stated in the beginning of the video, the default Kirby is set to be a C tier, just to show how well other abilities perform in comparison. After Kirby's first game, the developers implemented the copy abilities to allow new strategies and forms of difficulties to be implemented into their game. Kirby is capable of inhaling enemies either to bring forth the copy ability, spit back at an opponent, or simply eat it. The starter bullets that bosses and mid-bosses drop for Kirby are capable of dealing massive damage against them, once Kirby has the chance, which makes plain Jane Kirby a viable option to play as. The sword ability is the first ability Kirby is offered in the game. What benefits do this ability bring? It allows Kirby to swing a sword. Holding the B button will charge up your sword, and you'll spin around your sword. And if you press the A button while crouching, you'll dash with your sword. Okay, in all seriousness, I thought the base sword would surprise me, but it was a disappointment instead. It had the short range, and the damage it deals does not make up for it. Even though the ability has a cool combo, it only earned 11 points on my experience, meaning it does not even cut the D tier. The bomb ability is also found in the point of arrival. It allows you to throw bombs, and that's it. While this is an underwhelming ability at its base stage, the ability can take down bosses pretty fast when fully upgraded. The bomb also specializes in a decent range and a decent lasting residue. I give this the official A rank, gathering a total of 37 points. The Cutter ability has Kirby throw a sharp boomerang, which you would not want to be near. In some games, this ability is underwhelming and rarely used. In this game, Cutter is a lot more valuable. The fact that you get to keep the boomerang midair allows you to control the direction of these boomerangs a lot more effectively. As a 3D environment helps out the Cutter a lot, I place this ability in the S tier. The Fire ability is one of the most iconic staples of the franchise alongside Sword. In the 3D plane, this ability grants Kirby the gift of walking while breathing fire. Fire Kirby is now set to stay in the ground and enemies on fire instead of his moveset. And that gives him a greater potential through range and residue. I place this ability in the A tier. The Ranger ability is the meme that came true. Kirby finally has a gun. So this is an S tier. Okay, I have a real reason for the S tier placement. Because Kirby is allowed to constantly attack his enemies from a far distance, he's safer from enemy fire. Furthermore, an easily controlled long range allows Kirby to fire bullets at bosses who step out of the battlefield to set up an attack. Meaning, he will be able to damage some bosses in places other abilities can't. The Needle ability can move very fast, has potential to deal severe damage, but cannot hold his ball up for long. I place this in the A tier. The Ice ability has an incredible defense, but not so good much else. It received the ability to freeze bosses, but this is hard to pull off in the later stages of the game. I struggled in the test, and I had to place it in the F tier as a result. Next up, we have our first evolved copy ability, the Chakram Cutter. This ability has all the potential as Cutter, but the catch here is that the boomerang is split into 2 Chakrams. Well, it only got a few more points than Cutter. Cutter had a total of 44 points. Now would be the time I would scream this, making it into the S+ tier to hear you Chakram fans cheer, but I also realized how cringy that would be for me, and I do not have the voice to do that. Volcano Fire happened to be in par with the scores of Fire with the 6 sub-tier lists. They scored about the same with 36 points in the A tier. Either Fire does more damage than Volcano Fire, or there's an inaccuracy here. Next, we have the beloved Hammer ability. It is a total powerhouse on the table. It is capable of doing incredible moon jumps as well. However, it gets the A tier as it specializes in nothing else. And for some people, that's all they need. The Sleep ability is up next, and it's never been better than now. You don't go to sleep right away, and you regenerate health. Nothing could beat that. Oh wait, yes there is. In all seriousness, even with the recovery perk, Sleep still functions as an anti-ability overall, so I have to place it in the F tier for that. The Crash ability, in comparison to the regular Kirby ability, is just one rank better as it functions as a single-use attack. However, that single-use attack managed to gather a rather decent amount of points in my 6 tests, and I placed this ability in the A tier. The Drill ability is good with the speed boost, and is not without. This ability happened to score the lowest out of all abilities in the game, even lower than Sleep. So may God have mercy on their soul. Tornado. I'm not going to be condescending. I'm not going to keep being condescending here, so I'm just going to say Tornado got the B tier. I like the way it got reworked. The short range and lack of invincibility stops you from advancing any further. This ability still is a good option for early speedrunning. Still won't be condescending. The Clutter perk is very fun to use, and when racing on roads, this ability is top gun. I give this ability the S tier for incredible speed and potential damage. And I personally believe this is better to use than regular Tornado. The Chain Bomb has all the beneficial perks that its base counterpart has. Furthermore, the Chain Explosions give the ability a higher range and damage potential, placing this ability in the S tier. The Noble Ranger is not really an improvement from the Ranger over the base Ranger ability. Your basic attack fires twice as fast, but you don't get the ability to charge massive bullets with a Noble Ranger. This does hurt the evolution a bit and places it in the A tier. We have everyone's favorite now, the Toy Hammer. This ability shines in firepower and damage dealing and moon jumping, and not so much anywhere else. For this video, I placed Toy Hammer in the A tier, accumulating 37 points. And I do ask people in the comments to think of any tests I may have overlooked. The Gigant Sword is up next, landing in the B tier. The weapon has some incredible defense. The sword combo you also can do it. This thing does quick, efficient damage, and the Gigant Sword can... yeah, I think that's all for this ability. In my opinion, the Time Crash blueprint is hidden the best in the game. Not only do you deal crazy damage with this thing, but you can even slow down timers and challenges, which makes this ability somewhat broken. I placed this ability in the S tier. It has some limitations, which is why it's not higher, but it can be incredibly powerful when used correctly. The Flora Tornado has a wider pickup range compared to the regular Tornado, which gives it a larger combat potential. The increased range places Fleur in the S tier with 39 points. Pencil Drill is up next, only gathering 15 points in 6 tests, placing in the D tier. Most of the abilities and flaws are shared with Drill. The Meta Knight Sword is heavily reliant on the Sword Beam perk unlocked at full health. Until you gain access to power-ups, this ability is not very beneficial compared to Giant otherwise. It's very similar to the regular sword. I placed this ability in the C tier as a result. Dragonfire has a larger range and ignition time compared to the other fire abilities, but the fire dash just takes too long and is inefficient compared to the other fireball dashes, which is why this gets placed in the B tier. Frosty Ice is an improvement to the ice, as you now have the ability to build snowmen, which increase Frosty's range and residue, placing this ability in the B tier. The Home Run Bomb is up next, with higher damage and potential and range, giving this ability an S tier ranking. Surprised, huh? Well, yeah, it got an S tier in the test. Buzzsaw is up next, and with its Ricochet ability, this ability makes the cut for the F plus tier. Crystal Needle has a long range, movement speed, and just looks pretty overall, and it is pretty strong, as it gathers 49 points in my tests, which means it also places in the S plus tier. Twin Drill gets the C tier ranking. Twin relies on the speed boost a lot, and it's where I think the ability struggles. While digging underground is a cool concept, the Drill family overall does not do an efficient job at dealing damage. Twin Drill is the best out of the 3 drill abilities, and I wish I could rank this higher. Wild Hammer is placed in the C tier. While it packs a heavy punch, this ability is just too slow, which doesn't make up for the heavy damage. Blizzard Ice has all the benefits Frosty has, but with more improvements such as an increased fire range and a spiky ice shield. I place this in the A tier, and while taking down bosses is a tedious drag, the incredible defense makes up for it. Space Ranger has a residue feature, which manages to make it in the S plus tier, containing almost all the benefits the base Ranger contains. The Deep Sleep is a huge improvement to regular sleep, with a perk providing free boosters and a fully regenerating Kirby's health. Since this is a single-use ability that turns Kirby into his default form after use, I'm unable to put Deep Sleep above the A rank. Storm Tornado is a very menacing ability, easily picking up projectiles and making them home in on their target. The catch here is that the damage is reduced, and the bullets do not hit multiple times, but their homing buff is pretty cool alone, giving this form an S tier ranking. The Mass Hammer was an evolution I did not see coming, and it was a stellar job of my tests. It did a stellar job. Managing to get an S+ ranking on 3 of my tests, normally this would have received a simple S tier ranking, but the Hammer Glitch bonus moves this ability into the S+ tier. Finally, we have the Morphinite Sword. I think we can all agree this goes in the S+ tier. This serves as an all-purpose tool, being able to slam stakes, melt ice, put away fires, and spin turbines. This really does serve as the ultimate ability. Or maybe an ultimate ability. And that concludes this tier list video. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and maybe this turns out to be rather helpful in the end. I'm open to feedback, and there will be a second version of this, so share a comment if you want to. I think that is all I have to say, and I'll see you next time!